Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS strategy video for the 2020 BMW Championship. This is the third video in my BMW Championship series, if you want to call it that. The first video was a course fit, second one was a stat fit, and this is going to tie those two in together, plus add my bucket system that I typically go over in these videos. I did have a giveaway that I was doing in the last two videos. I'm just going to say this. You're going to have to watch those videos in order to get it. It is going to be my 2020 DK page. You'll have full access to it. But you're going to have to watch those videos to see how to do it. So yeah, I also want to remind you, I have timestamps in the description so you can get to any part of the video you want to. I'm not going to give you the whole faster speed speech because this one should be pretty short, relatively speaking. Let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheet. I have the notes page up, which houses the bucket system. You can see top 5 and top 10 up there. Now, if you've been here before, you know what this is. If you haven't, welcome. This is just me populating all of the instances. Really, it's all the finishing positions for each year. For last year, obviously, we'd be talking about the year before. So in 2019, we had 3 golfers that had finished 20th or better the year prior. You know, it's pretty easy to understand, I guess, saying it that way. And last week is self-explanatory. This would be looking at last week's performance. So the one thing I should say, let me go back a little bit. I use this bucket system. I rank the buckets, and then with that ranking, I actually add that to the DK page. So you can see John Rahm has, last year bucket 1, last week bucket 1. So that's how that's going to look on the 2020 DK page. What I want to point out when going over this is the count that happens over here. It's a sum function, obviously, of these finishing spots or these numbers within here. It comes out to, obviously, a total. That total I then calculate into each other or into the last year bucket range, bringing up the percentages that we see inside the top 10. I don't know why that was so difficult to say, but anyways, 40% of golfers at the BMW Championship had a finishing position. Okay. 40% of golfers within the top 10 at the BMW Championship had finishing positions 20th or better. That's a pretty remarkable stat. We've seen this kind of with the did not plays. Typically, like during a regular cut event, not the playoffs or anything like that, we see that this number can be pretty high. A lot of golfers not playing from the year before kind of have a little bit of a boost, and it doesn't really matter about course history, but just having, either time off or just never playing it, they do pretty well. Anyways, for this tournament, it's remarkable that 40%. So really, this shows you the cream rises to the top. And then the next bucket would be the did not plays, followed by 20 to 40, and then 40 to 60. For the last week bucket, our highest one is actually golfers who finish 20th or better last week, which is also kind of a remarkable stat. Again, proving that the cream rises to the top. Then it's followed by 20 to 40, 40 to 60, and it goes down the line. So really, it would pay dividends playing golfers that did well last week. So that's essentially the bucket system by number, just by numbers, by percentages. I like to go a little bit further and look at the bucket combinations. So I populate for each year the different bucket combinations that came with each year. And you can see that right here. I tally them down here to kind of give you a good number or just a good visual, basically. How often has this happened? How many years has it happened? That kind of thing. So you can see last week one, has happened each of the last 6 years, but it's only happened 7 times, meaning each of these years, we only see one within the top 10. So I would almost say for this tournament, you should create a golfer, or you should add a golfer that is a 1-1. So if we go back to the spreadsheet, obviously here are your 1-1s. there's not many. There are not a lot. I really like Jon Rahm, but say you wanted to fade Jon Rahm, then you're looking at these 3 golfers who are going to be able to round out your lineup pretty nicely. If I was to create a lineup, I mean, I might just go all in on Jon Rahm, but I guess wait till the end of the video I'm going to tell you how much I'm going to play of Jon Rahm. And the lineups I'm not going to, I will be feeding in these 3 golfers. So this is what the bucket system does. It really narrows down our player pool. And for the most part, it typically does. So going back to this, I even go a step further. I know that was already a lot, but I go a little bit further, showing you how often it's happened, for top 5 finishes and top 10 finishes over the last 6 years. So the 1-2 bucket actually has happened more often than the 1-1 combination. And looking at the 1-2s, you can see them right here. Another small sample. Now 1-2s, going back to the bucket system, it would be a last year 1. So we're looking right here. This would be our last year 1. It is ranked number 1. That would be a finishing position of last year, 20 or better. Now the last week 2 would be this 20 to 40 range. And also what I want you to remember is we did not see it, or I should say, when we look at it here, it's only happened 4 out of the last 6 years, and we did not see it in 2018 or 2017. But if we look at 2019, I already have it highlighted here. You can see how often, like how many people are in that pool actually. There are 4. If I look at 2018, just to show you what 2018 looked like, there were only 2 in the pool. You can see, again, that last week, bucket 2, are finishes between 20 and 40. You can see that ends right here. Jon Rahm, it was 43rd, so he was 3 places away to being inside that, inside that bucket. So, very close there. Could have obviously happened. Here we only have 2. In 2017, we only see it twice. And I guess there wasn't much of a close similarity. I was going to say, oh, here we go. We got another one, but that was 56th place. So we only have 2, but if we go to 2016 and come down here, we see 5 instances. And in 2015, if we were to sort by this, we have 3 instances so far. Yeah, 3 instances, and all 3 of those finish inside the top 10. Now we could say, all right, look at the quality of player. We have a Rory, Hideki, Bubba. Go to 2016, we have a Spieth, Roberto Castro, which this is where I want you to see. It's like this is what brings certain players out that you would never have thought. We have Ryan Palmer and JB Holmes as well. 2017, it was Charles Schwartzel and Louis Oosthuizen, $8,800. I mean, that's kind of a tell because we're going to see similar numbers here in 2020. We had Jon Rahm. We had Mark Leishman at 7,900 and Patrick Cantlay at 8,500 in 2018, and we didn't see a top 10 finish there. So I think having more than 2 golfers in the pool, we're going to see a 1-2 finish inside the top 10. I mean, you see Finau and Matsuyama. So those were like the same prices nearly as Leishman and Cantlay. I think they average out to be pretty darn close. So yeah, when we look at 2020, the 1-2s that we see here, I might just create lineups with Xander and Hideki Matsuyama. Like, I think Matsuyama is going to be one of my highest plays. A lot of things are pointing towards a Matsuyama week, and it's crazy. I can't trust Matsuyama, but for whatever reason, I like him this week. So, and I will be sprinkling in some of these other golfers too, just to cover my bases. But yeah, that would be your 1-2. I'm not going to talk about all the buckets. I'm not going to go throughout all the buckets. I do want to show you what the percentages are. So if I was, I guess, what I would do if I was you, you have this power on YouTube. You can pause and then screenshot. If you want to refer back to this is your opportunity. Because I am now going to talk about kind of a salary strategy. So I kind of have it on the screen for you to see. It's a little spaced out. Yeah, I could probably bring this in just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, this should be good enough. So basically, what I do here during the salary breakdown is look at all the top 5 finishes, look at all the top 10 finishes, and try to find, what kind of trends have we seen salary-wise. I think this is a good way to determine, what type of golfer you should use or what salaries that you should, explore. A lot of these golfers that are high priced, I have this in my recent form tabs, so you can see what the optimal golfers were. They would be the ones with the little black tick marks. So you can see we obviously didn't use John Rahm in 2019. We used Lucas Glover, who was a 7th place finish, and Kevin Tway, who was an 11th place finish, mainly because he was $6,200. And obviously scored enough to have a decent score, fantasy score throughout the whole thing. Anyways, 2018, if we did this by salary, we're not going to see Rory McIlroy. We're not going to be using him, but we are going to use another 11-2 golfer. So having a golfer over 10K looks to be pretty decent, I guess. Yeah. I mean, you would have used Ricky Fowler in this during this year. And if not Ricky, you probably would have used Jason Day. But either way, having a golfer over 10K is not going to be detrimental. It's probably what you're going to need. So as we do look at this, the BMW Championship has an average salary of $8,750 inside the top 10, meaning there are a lot of high-priced golfers inside the top 10. What we're going to probably have to do, because you can't play a lot of the top guys. In fact, when we looked at each of those years, really you're not seeing multiple 10K and above guys. You're only seeing one. So in 2017, we only played one. The next salary after that was $8,500. Likewise, in 2018, we played an 11-2 golfer, but the winner was at $7,300. Third place was $7,700. The next salary price guy we used was $8,100. It went from 11-2 to 81, and then 8, and so on. In 2019, we started at 10, but we were able to use someone really close to 10, so we went to 9-8, and then it went to 8-5, 8-2, then 7-1, and 6,200. So it's going to be difficult to think about that 6,200, but we did use it. So yeah, coming back to that salary breakdown, what I like to do here is see how many salaries have finished inside the top 10. Like, what is the percentage? We've had 7 finishes inside the top 10 that were at 10K and above. Obviously, you can go down the list. I'm not going to name all of them, but you can see the percentages also of how that shakes out. One thing I like about these 2 columns here is kind of a breakdown of what salary was really close, like how many times we saw a particular salary. What I'll say is this: we've only seen 3 golfers that are below 7K. 2 of those golfers were 69. This was much like last week, where 6,900 was kind of the min you really wanted to go to. You could grab one golfer below that, and the one golfer would, for this year to make that third number here in that below 7K range was 6,600. So we never really dipped down under 6,600 for top 10s, but I think we have to not care too much about top 10s. Mostly because if our average salary position is 80, or not position, but salary for top 10s is 8,700, it's probably going to be difficult to actually create a winning lineup, following this type of model, this type of trend. We're probably going to have to find someone who finished 20th, somewhere between 10 and 30th place. That's, maybe a little under 6K. We have a no-cut event, so I think we can be a little daring when doing that. So I would say when it comes to salary structure, if you are going to grab two guys around 10K, it might have to be the low 10K golfers. So for me, one of my favorite golfers, I mean, my favorite plays are Jon Rahm and Xander. They are the thumbnail for this video. 1109.9 is going to be difficult. Now, if I'm not going to pair them up together, I'm playing one or the other. And in all honesty, I'm probably not playing a lot of this. I do like Justin Thomas as well. And I'll play Justin Thomas for sure. But when it comes to that salary, salary thought when it comes to creating lineups, it might be difficult to do this. And it might not even be worth it. Even if we have a first place or like a top 3 to go along with a 5th place, like we did in 2018, was that the Justin Rose one? Like we had a 2nd and a 5th. Well, McIlroy at 10-3 was not in your winning lineup. Now, could we create a lineup this way? With the winner, Xander, and then... So we could find someone that's at 6,600. Where do we see that? Where's our first? Andrew Putnam. So we could do something like this. Like, no worries. And Andrew Putnam is 16th. That's probably good enough to win a GPP, honestly. So, we did have to drop, 69 and 65. Doing 10-3, 10, and 11-2, it just doesn't give you that flexibility of finding a lot of, good golfers in these ranges. The biggest range we've seen inside the top 10 is the 8 to 9K range. So really, we're going to probably want a golfer in that range. And I kind of believe that if we're creating lineups, we should be kind of mix and matching, basically. So if we're doing a strategy of something like this, say 21% of our lineups have a 10K or above golfer in it, we're probably going to have to dig into this range, these two ranges a little bit more. I think that's common sense, but you could probably go 10K to the 8 to 9K, grab a couple guys from the 7K, one guy from here, and then whatever you have left over, grab from one of the other ones. So it's doable that way. But just be cognizant, of how much salary you're starting out with. How much are you reserving for a player? I say that because if you have one of your favorite plays at the top, it might be difficult to, create a winning lineup. Let me reverse that. It's going to be difficult, I think, to create a winning lineup that's stars and scrubs. I don't think we've seen it for the optimal lineup the last couple of years. Yeah, it's not really a stars or scrub. I mean, 7,100 to 6,200. That's not really scrubs when everyone else is around that 7 to 8K range. We have a couple 7s, an 8, 6-9. Like 6-9 is the lowest. So we're not really going to scrub level there. We're not really going to scrub level here. Like a lot of this is, again, starting at that 6,900. We're not starting at 6,900, but 69 is the lowest we're going. So I think we need to think about that quite a bit. Okay. That's all I'm going to do, spend time in the salary breakdown. There is one other piece that I did only because I saw a very interesting, and if you were with me in the StatFit video, you would have seen this. I saw a lot, actually, I covered this. We talked about this. This has been in all of my videos. You have seen a snippet of this. Like if we're looking at optimal lineup and the GPP winning, you would have seen, the beginning of this. I have this for all of my spreadsheets. At one point in time, I was creating lineups strictly by recent form and course history and basically doing that same percentage drill that I was doing before. What I ended up doing was adding all of those top 10 finishes and putting them down here. So you can see in 2019 to 2013, here are all the buckets for recent form. And here are the percentages that it's happened inside the top 10. So what I ended up doing was I used that to create a model. So this column here is showing you what golfers within that recent form. So if I were to go sort by this and use this, this column here, you're kind of going to get a good idea. So 20 and below, we have 3 instances that's happened. That's not, that is fairly low when we look at, each year, I should say. So like we can see kind of the corner piece here. We've seen 6 in 2018. We've seen 9 in 2019. In 2017, we've seen 6. We've seen 7. Oh, I'm sorry. This is like a live calculation, so I have to make sure that I do this properly. Oh, never mind. We just have the totals here regardless. In 2015, we've seen 4. So that's kind of the closest number, but of the 4, 3 were inside the top 10, right? Yeah, 3 are inside the top 10. And 2 of them are here in 10th place. 2014, we had 4 finished inside the top 10. So it's like a good percentage, of the pool. So if we're looking just strictly of the pool, so these golfers are in that pool, there's a high likelihood that 1, 2, or even 3 of them are going to finish inside the top 20. The top 10. And if that's the case, having a mix and match, if you're with me, I think during the stat fit video, could have been the course fit, I can't remember, but I said, in 100% of my lineups, I think I'm going to have Jon Rahm and Harris English. I might have 33 lineups with Harris English in it, 33 lineups with Jon Rahm, and 33 with both of them in it. I think that's just, I'm just going to go that route. And the ones that don't have Jon Rahm in them, I'm probably going to substitute Xander Schauffele in there. And I might even create 1 or 2 Xander and Jon Rahm lineups. So anyways, I think these 3 golfers definitely you should add to your pool. But yeah, this column here is basically the ownership based off of their buckets that they fall into. It's not based off their bucket. It is over in 600 positions that are available on your lineups. This would be a calculation like 25%. So this total here of these 3 golfers equals 25% of 600. And again, that comes from here. And then the next one would be that 20 to 40 range, which is a little bit bigger. If we go here and look, so we have from here down to here. That would be 22 golfers in that bucket. So the number is going to be, not as big. So what? It goes from Jason Day down to Adam Scott. Yep. So you can see the number is like the buckets for these aren't as big, but the ones that have good stats are really popping through. And then we see Hideki. I really like Hideki. It's going to be probably, I might pair Hideki up with Harris English and start there with most of my lineups. And then if I can add Jon Rahm or Xander Schauffele, I'm going to. And then mix and match some of my guys 6K and below, and then some in the 7K range. Like, I think that's a pretty decent way to create lineups. But yeah, that's how this would look. So I did that, and you can see that is reflected in this column here. I also did it by salary, and that, of course, is using this right here, these ranges here, so that, the percentage here over in 600 positions would give you the number here, indicated here. And then the average for SweetSpot is going to be, or I shouldn't say the average, the SweetSpot number is going to be the average between the 2. I'm still tweaking this, trying to figure out a good way to figure it out. I like it this week because it's really showing some, gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say disparaging, but that was what I was going to go for. Really finding some outliers, which I really want. I want to know who to go all in on. So like if I were to sort this by the sweet spot percentage, like, you know, Xander and Jon Rahm, JT Hideki, Tony Finau, Daniel Berger, all of these golfers are up at the top. And then it's nice to see someone like a Corey Connors show up. You know, he's a 1-2, $7,200. Maybe he's the, you know, the 1-2 we want to play. And if we're not playing Corey Connors, maybe we're playing Hideki Matsuyama. We could also pair them both up together because we've seen that, you know, throughout the years too. Remember, 4 of the last 6 years, we've seen a 1-2, and we've seen it 11 times. We've seen a 1-2 11 times within the last 6 years, but we've only seen it 4 to 6 years. So obviously there's some double ups, maybe some triple ups within the top 10. So just keep that in mind. Let's do this. So I just covered the sweet spot percentage. Typically, I do that at the end, but because I added those little pieces, you know, the recent form buckets, along with like the salary breakdown, I figured I'd add it in earlier. What I do want to talk about is tee time pairings. If you've been with me, if you followed me on Twitter, you know I care a lot about, you know, the tee times. I think golfers who are paired together who have low score potential or that do score low, you know, at least 1 or 2 rounds out of the week, I think will either propel someone to do better than their average, you know, average scoring position that they would have, or average score. It also might actually do the opposite. So what I ended up doing, I just used the sweet spot bucket and also the eyeball test. So if I liked a golfer, I mean, I think Brendan Steele's going to be a popular play, but I don't really like the group that he's in. So I'm not adding, like, my eyeball test was like, well, his number isn't that big, and plus I don't care, you know, to add them. But if I needed to find a golfer in the 6K range, maybe I try to pick one of these guys, because if this group does do well, chances are just having one of them is going to be beneficial. But anyways, the color coding that you see here is all based off of the total that comes from the sweet spot between the 3 golfers. So that's basically what that color coding means. As we go down here, this group seems really interesting, in all honesty. Harry Higgs is a golfer that a lot of people have been talking about, who had an 11th place finish last week. So like he's a 2-1 and he's $6,100. He might be worth the play, you know, and paired with 2 ball strikers, it might hone in his accuracy. You never know. I don't care so much about this group. The sweet spot percentage just not showing up. Tony Finau is with Neiman and Horschel. I don't know how that is. They're all last week 4s, which to me isn't a very good sign. I don't necessarily like it, but I do like Tony out of all of them. So if I am creating some Tony lineups, it might be beneficial to create, you know, 1 or 2 of them with Billy Horschel or Joaquin Niemann. And that's going to be the same as we go down for most of these. I'm just going to point out the big groups that really pop. So Jon Rahm, obviously one of my favorite plays. He's with Patrick Reed and Sungjae Im. I don't really like that group, if I'm being quite honest. Jon Rahm I do like, but the group itself, like Sungjae, I'm not confident with Sungjae. Last week, Karen Stupples on the PGA Tour Live feed noted something that I had also noticed, was the fact that Sungjae sets up on his toes. His heels are actually off of the ground. Pay attention to it when you watch him. He might not do it this week, but if you can watch reruns of last week, it's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. Admittedly, I was changing my swing a little bit, where I was adding more pressure to my toes, but I was never picking my heels up. And that was just at address, and that's exactly what he's doing at address. It doesn't feel comfortable. I'm assuming whatever he's doing doesn't feel comfortable, and it's kind of stupid, in all honesty. I don't know why he's doing it, but a golfer that cuts the ball, I tweeted this. A golfer that cuts the ball, if you're on your toes, you can almost look at golf as like science. The chemistry equation, everything, I think it's chemistry. Everything has an equal and opposite reaction. If you're setting up on your toes, when you go through your swing, you're going to finish on your heels. If you're finishing on your heels with a cut, you're going to miss everything to the right. That's a lot of what he did last week. So I don't know what he's doing. I don't trust him. Patrick Reed at a narrow golf course, I don't necessarily like. He did win the Masters, which kind of has a similar layout. Tree lined, most of the holes are tree lined. There are some bailout areas, but I don't necessarily. You know what? I'm going to take it back. I guess I don't mind Patrick Reed. From what I remember watching him, I have some biases that come with certain players, and with him, I rostered him when he had the worst snap hooks, and I think this was like 2 years ago at Pebble Beach. They whatever that tournament is. Jeez, I can't remember. It's the Pro-Am. But and really I should forget about that because he's been hitting the ball pretty solid. Like his driving accuracy is never going to be high, but he hasn't been hitting those nasty hooks. So anyways, I guess I do like John. I can get on board with Reed. I don't know about him, so I'm not going to talk about that. This is a really interesting group because I need to find a 6K golfer, and Scotty Scheffler can find fire, as can Sebastian Munoz. I think Munoz was like 8 under after 7 or something like that. Something similar to that. This was last week, obviously. But if he has a hot round, obviously he can cool down real fast. But if he does have a hot round, I can see like Scheffler and Lanto also having a hot round or vice versa. This group in itself, I think, can catch fire pretty fast. This is your all-star group right here. I think the winner's probably going to come from this group, if I'm being completely honest. I like Daniel Berger a lot. I like JT a lot. And I don't mind Dustin Johnson. So it's going to be difficult, but I do believe you need to find someone at the top and stick with that golfer. Unless you just want to water down your ownership, then you obviously can do that. But yeah, I do think the winner. You can see the rest of these here. They're all lit up. Tigers with Bubba and Carlos Ortiz. I really don't like that. Don't care for it. I know a lot of people are kind of on Tiger. His bucket combination doesn't fit well. The group he's playing with doesn't look good. I love Tiger, but I can't. I'm not going to play him. I'd rather just watch him win and not feel bad. Or I'd rather just watch him win than play him in my DraftKings lineups and watch him lose, basically. You know what I'm getting at. An interesting group here: Adam Scott, Woodland, and Nick Taylor. We have a lot of ball strikers there, so maybe this boosts their value quite a bit. Cantlay, Hughes, and Ben An. I really don't care for Ben An, but Mackenzie Hughes is kind of interesting to go along with like a Patrick Cantlay. We'll see how that ends up. We have another big group here with Rory, Xander, and Brendan Todd. I do like Xander, like I've said earlier in this video. If I'm liking Xander, perhaps Rory does well and Brendan Todd. But the one thing I'll talk about with Xander is it seems like when he actually is in a group that's doing poorly, he does poorly as well. So that's one thing to think about, one thing to consider. Don't care too much for this group, although Kisner and Hovland are an interesting pairing. We've seen a lot of, if we went back to like 2019, we have an 8-2 and an 8-5 golfer in the optimal lineup. If we go to 2018, we have a 7-7 and an 8-1 golfer. So it's, similar around that range. In 2017, we have an 8-5 and an 8-2 golfer. So I'm kind of thinking we might see that. And Kevin Kisner and Hovland are right around those ranges. So it might be worth playing one, might be worth playing both. Who knows? I do like the Matsuyama, Hatton, and Answer lineup. I had said last week that Hideki is usually on his own island. It doesn't matter who's around him playing well or playing poorly. But in a way, I kind of like this international lineup. For whatever reason, I think Matsuyama might be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe, maybe not. But I do like that. Matsuyama and Hatton have very similar ball flights. So I really like that. They're going to see the golf course nearly the same. Hit the same distances usually, or pretty close. So I like that group. And then one last group that I want to talk about is the Kuchar, Connors, and Landry lineup. I don't so much care for Andrew Landry, but like Connors has a high score, and I really like Matt Kuchar. If you're not playing DJ with a 4-1, Kuchar might be a good replacement. If I went back to the bucket combination thing, a 4-1 has shown up 10% inside the top 5, 10% inside the top 10 as well. It's happened 4 of the last 6 years. It's only happened 7 times, but it might be worth playing a 4-1, at least once. So that would be tee times. What else do I typically cover? Kind of went through the salary model. So what I can do, we already went through that. So the best plays. I'll just give you a lineup, and we can finish the video off of that. Let's start at that 8K range. So I like Hideki, and I like Harris English. So let's go ahead and grab both of these golfers, throw them in over here. So what I'm going to do is actually paste them right here and then transpose them. So now we have $8,300 to work with. What happens if we add a Jon Rahm to that? Brings it down to 7.4, which is not terrible. We need to find a good 6.9 golfer, 6,900, somewhere around that range. Actually, here's one thing I want to add. In each of these years, 2019, if we look, the optimal lineup has had to use a 6K golfer. Of the 6K golfers, I want to point out something, just something I've noticed. Each one of these golfers has a recent form in the 60s. And each one of these golfers has finished inside or has been in the optimal lineup. We had Corey Connors last year finish inside the $1 GPP winning lineup, and he was $6,600. But Tway scored more points than Corey Connors did. And that's 68.40. So I'm tempted to look in the 6K range to find, that 60 or, the recent form of 60 or worse. And the other thing to go with all of that is their last week finishing position. So we have a 24th, a 58th, a 56th. I'm kind of thinking I want to find that same thing. Hadwin isn't necessarily a 6K golfer, but I'm going to include him in that. And then Joaquin Niemann is, I guess, pretty close too. Very interesting. I'm sorry. Those are last year finishing positions. What am I doing? JT Poston. I'm actually going to include these top 18s as well, and nobody else. So like Harry Higgs finishes there, JT Poston does, Danny Lee, and Sebastian Munoz. I already said I liked Sebastian Munoz. Let's go ahead, add Sebastian Munoz to that lineup. I'm going to throw him over here. Now, that leaves me with $7,900. That's awesome. You know what I can do with that? Add another 8K golfer or another 7K golfer. Or not another, but add a 7K golfer. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well go by bucket range, right? So what do we already have? We already have Jon Rahm as a 1-1. We have Hideki Matsuyama, who is a 1-2. Remember, we want a 1-2. I shouldn't say we want one, but we have one. What else do we have? Harris English, who was a 2-1. I would say I want to find someone who is either a 1-2 or a 1-3. Our 1-1s have already been used, like I said. So I'm not going to consider anyone like Louis Oosthuizen. But I guess if I go back to the notes page, how many times do we see a 2-1? We've only seen it for the last 6 years. It really only happens once. So I'm not going to select another 2-1, but it might be beneficial. What does our top 5 count say? A 1-3, a 1-3, a 3-1, a 3-2. 1-3, a 2-3, 3-1. Okay. So let's go ahead and find someone like that. We could add Tiger to our mix. How does that look? You know, I said I didn't want to play Tiger, but if I did add Tiger, I'd have $7,300 left, which isn't terrible. I'm not going to. Man, we could add someone like Matthew Wolff, but I don't necessarily like that. Victor Hovland, maybe? Here's a 1-3. So let's add Adam Scott. I like that quite a bit. Let's try to find someone that's like a 3-1 within, or just a 3 in this range here, or even like a Matt Kuchar. Boom. And I like that lineup a lot. You guys can go ahead and copy that. But that's how I'm basically going to create lineups. I'm going to do more of a mass entering lineup thing. So it's not really going to go, I'm not going to really be picking through this, you know, this way. What I will be doing is using the sweet spot percentage, kind of going through my favorite plays this way. You know, JT is a 1-3. So if you were to create a 1-3, I mean, let's add JT and Hideki together, right? Let's go something like this. Adam Scott was the other 1-3. We can add Kuchar still and Sebastian Munoz. If we went something like this, we have 8,500. Man, I'm really tempted to play someone like Xander. Leaves us with 7,100, which isn't terrible. And then of 7,100, you know, there's Joaquin Niemann we could use. I guess I'm probably more privy to use Lanto Griffin. So we do something like that. And that's a lineup I also like. Like, I'm not going to have an issue creating a lineup like that. I like it quite a bit. I'm probably not going to stick with the Sebastian Munoz thing here. So if I were to do something like this and have 6,900 left, I'm probably not feeling entirely comfortable. I'd have to find some guys down here that, I mean, I don't want to really be digging too far into the 6K range, in all honesty. Maybe I add someone like a Brendan Steele. Even then, I really don't want to. I guess we could go with someone like Danny Lee. 63. Ah, man. So difficult. Either way, I think it's probably a crapshoot down here. How do we create... I mean, what does it look like if I were to add Matt Kuchar? 6,700. Don't really care for that. But if we went with like Lanto, find somebody else. Guess Benny Ann shows up a little bit. Sure. Gives us a 3, and then what? We have $7,100 left to work with. Actually, JT Poston was a golfer that we wanted to play anyways, right? Anyways, those are just some ideas. I do also want to note one thing before I get off of this. When we look at 2019, the DK page here, one thing to note is your finishing positions. You know, we're going to want to find some of these golfers that don't have a lot of, you know, top 20 stats. They're going to matter a little bit. 2018 is probably going to be a little of the same. Top 20 stats here. Yeah, I mean, we see one here, but that's a Xander. Xander's obviously very talented. Anyways, maybe not so much. Maybe we want to look at our top stats. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. 44 minutes, a little longer than I was hoping, but either way, hopefully you guys do well. And yeah, thank you. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you during the review video on Sunday. All right, bye.